It's 6:00 p.m. I'm going to call the council to order. We have a quorum present. 2 members are absent, James Bells and Rob Foster. If you'll please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today with humble hearts, grateful for the brave and selfless men and women who serve as police officers in our communities. We ask that you protect them as they risk their lives to protect ours. We ask that you bless and guide them so that they always act in accordance with your will. Help them to find strength in your love and be a shining example of your grace and mercy to those around them. We pray for their families who often bear the burden of worry and fear. Give them peace of mind and comfort, knowing that you are watching over their loved ones. May we as a community recognize and appreciate the sacrifices they make to help keep us safe. May we stand by them and support them in their mission to uphold law and order and to protect the lives and property of our fellow citizens. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. I want to thank you all for coming today. It is Thursday, May 16, 2024. During my mayor announcements, I have 2 proclamations to read. I'm going to be issuing a proclamation declaring May 12 to 18 as National Police Week, and a proclamation declaring May 19 to 25 as National Public Work Week. So I'm going to go ahead and step to the podium, and I'm going to go ahead and call forward the lieutenant first, and we'll do the proclamation for National Police Week, and then I'll call the Assistant Director of the Public Works Department for his. Hopefully you'll be able to pick me up. All right, this is a proclamation that I'm going to issue to the Keene Police Department. Whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Keene Police Department. Whereas law enforcement officers, including members of the Keene Police Department, accept a profound responsibility and work to uphold our laws, safeguard our rights and freedoms, and serve on the front lines in the fight against crime and terrorism. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agencies, and that members of our law enforcement agencies recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas Wednesday, May 15, 2024 is observed nationally as Peace Officer Memorial Day, in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And whereas the Keene Police Department, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered dedicated service to the community, now therefore I, Lisa Parrish, as Mayor of the City of Keene, do hereby proclaim May 12 to 18, 2024 as National Police Week, and hereby publicly recognize the service of law enforcement officers in our community. In witness thereof, I hereto set my signature and the seal of the City of Keene this 16th day of May, 2024. Thank you very much, sir, for your service. Do one without my glasses. All right, thank you, sir, appreciate it. Listen, sorry, I'm almost going to leave. Forgot I have one more. Okay, this is a proclamation for National Public Works Week, which will be next week. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities, the public health, high quality of life, and the well-being of the people of the City of Keene. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our residents. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed public is vital to the efficient operation of the public works system and programs, including water, sewer, streets, public buildings, solid waste collection, landfill, wastewater disposal, code enforcement, and engineering to provide these essential services to our citizens. And whereas public works employees being instrumental and essential in responding to civic emergencies and operating and maintaining essential infrastructure such as water, wastewater, streets, and solid waste collection are designated as first responders by Homeland Security Presidential Directive. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th Annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, now therefore, I, Lisa Parrish, Mayor of the City of Keene, do hereby proclaim May 19 to 25, 2024 as National Public Works Week, advancing quality of life for all, and urge our community to recognize the substantial contributions the City of Keene's Public Works Department makes to protect our national health, safety, and quality of life for all. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Keene to be affixed this 16th day of May, 2024. Thank you very much. Hold on, I'll put the glasses. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, council, we have our city engineer in attendance, and I would like to make the suggestion that we bump the next item and go ahead and jump to item agenda 7D and then proceed to agenda item 7E so that he won't have to stay for this entire meeting. So council, if there's no objection, I'm going to go ahead and move to 7D at this time. Okay? 7D and E. These two right here, D and E. He's going to answer questions for those two. So we're going to jump to that, and then we'll come back to public comments. Okay, agenda item number 7D, review, discuss, and consider accepting the final plat for the Canyons, Phase 1, as submitted by D.R. Horton, Texas Ltd., for the recommendation for approval by City Council.
Caught me off guard.
Go ahead, Ms. Martin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. J&O Holdings purchased approximately 70 acres of land located along Highway 67, just north of Keene ISD property. Some of the land was annexed into the city, then rezoned to a planned development. The development has been sold to D.R. Horton, Texas Ltd., and they want to file the plat in 3 separate phases because they may make some changes to Phase 2 and 3. The plats were approved by City Council in August 2023, but they were never filed in the county clerk's office because I never got the Mylars and they were never signed. So nothing's been officially recorded yet when those first 3 phases were approved. So in your packet, when we went to planning and zoning on Monday, and Mr. Jackson pointed out a couple minor errors that were on the one side where they had First Street labeled twice, should have been one of them, should have been Third Street. I do have the corrections here, and you should have got that, I believe, today. I think I sent that to you. So, anybody has any questions? I have some larger copies if you want to look at them. I got about 4 or 5
I would
of them.
like one. It's really hard to see this one. Yeah, if you want to put it between Thomas and me.
The 2 pages there. See the bigger one? You do?
Oh, I love plans.
Do you get this through? We have an extra top sheet if you're missing one. Can you see it on there?
So I have one of the engineers here besides our engineer, and said there weren't no changes inside what was originally approved when we approved phase 1, 2, and 3 altogether. So if you have any questions.
I do.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Is there any accommodations for these streets of Fir and Pecan that dead end into this subdivision? Those don't have proper turnarounds. They don't have the bullheads for the fire trucks. Why wasn't some accommodations made for those streets to go into this subdivision to alleviate those issues?
As far as Pecan goes, Pecan's in the county, and there were some issues there. I don't recall, I wasn't involved in the very beginning of it, but I don't know.
Okay, so which P and Z would point some of this stuff out? Because First Street goes down to a dead end, and I had to pull into a guy's driveway last week to turn around with my trailer.
Right.
So that's, it's a problem with the fire department. We discussed this in Val Verde area, so we've got to do better.
I have a question, Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
So I know we have the city engineer and we have also the city, is it planning? Is that correct?
Not,
The city
not here
planner?
that I'm aware
The
of.
city planner and then we have the city engineer,
Correct.
correct? So with this, I've looked at a few of these kind of, the way that everything is set up here. You say there were some few issues. So is our planning person buying off every single of these kind of submission that's going through the PNC?
Not everyone, no. It's just like the attorney, we don't advise the attorney or ask for the attorneys on every single thing.
But who makes the decision?
We go by our ordinances.
So if you have anything, you can make a decision based on the ordinance without going through the planner and the city engineer?
That's correct, they're a consultant.
Okay. Because there are some issues that as we continue to develop, I mean, we are a small city, and this has come up. I did visit a lot of homeowners that went through the frustration of the flooding that we had. And they asked the same question, are we buying off all these things, and then once everything is left, or the developers have moved on, then it's a city problem. Are we buying off, checking these things off? Or somebody's just saying, oh, we can do away with this, or we can just, this is just okay. So I just want to make sure that the planner and the city engineer, if you are paying for these professionals, they are buying off these processes.
Yes.
Because from what I'm hearing here, it's some of the mistakes or some of the issues here, it's like we are catching them while the process is within kind of either voted down or up, So it's just a concern from what I'm hearing we have been doing in the past as a city. And they're saying we need to do better. So I told them we have a city engineer and a planning consultant, and we try to use their expertise as much as possible.
Correct.
So I hope that, do we have the process where, because last time we ran into HOSAP's issue too. You said there was a plan, there was something in place that will make sure that everything that becomes before this council on P&Z should be able to go through the city engineer and also the planning.
We do. We have a development review process in DRC. So, I mean, this started 2 years ago, though.
More than 2 years ago.
What are we buying off? I don't understand
I don't either.
we're lost over here, because apparently you guys had got a hold of this stuff before we did.
Oh, he said there was some mistakes there that they did fix later.
Right,
That
what's
was
the
caught.
what's the buying off in reference to? I don't understand
Okay.
buying. What are we buying?
If this planning comes here before the council or P&Z, buying off means they checked,
Signing off.
yeah.
Okay,
You buy- you buy-
buying requires money.
No, it doesn't.
Signing requires pen. So, I'm sorry, that was my bad.
Okay, it's just,
We're over here thinking we're spending money.
okay, they have to, the thing is, are we sending it back to them to approve or take into consideration, let's say, their recommendations?
Yes. Not on everything, though.
And that's,
Not on
that's
every
the,
single plat that we do, not on minor plats, not on simple, plats where they just are filing because they want to build on the property or something. Something like this, yes, we would get some consultation, obviously from our city engineers, because we're dealing with infrastructure.
okay. I hope we can be able to keep up so we don't run into the same issue that we ran into
I think
last
we're getting
time.
off track. This is about this plat right here. It's here to be approved or not approved.
Okay. So I don't have any issue. What I'm saying is a concern. You say there were some mistakes that were caught up
I
by
think he was talking about a
P&Z.
street name, right? You said First Street and Third Street?
Right, if you look at the far left corner,
And it's,
if I have it the right way, where it shows Third Street ending right there at the corner, at the southwest corner, they had it labeled as First Street. That was the mistake.
So it's an issue not even related to the actual,
Correct.
it's
Outside the
outside of the
subdivision.
scope of
Just,
work.
More of a reference, yes.
Gotcha.
Ms. Beeson?
Okay, these plans were approved months ago, am I right?
Correct.
Okay, and they are just wanting to split this up where we approve
Three
a
pieces.
section at a time so that down the road they can make changes. So why, I mean, it seems like a simple thing to me. I don't, why are we making it so hard?
It's not hard. I'm just saying, based on the issues that we are having out there.
What
some-
issue?
We're having issues like flooding. I hope you have been listening to homeowners who are frustrated by the things that we approved a few years ago. And when they ask me, I tell them, we have city engineer, we have the planning, they always sign off these things, and then they ask me, so they say it's good, the way we are now dealing with this mess, we have to come out of pocket and all that.
Did we have a city engineer at the time of that other incident?
And that's what we don't know, but what we can assure them is we have process in place to make sure we don't keep going back and forth with these things that just
But the
slip.
planning's already going. The planning's already, like Ms. Beeson said, it's already been done. So what are we wasting time on this one for? She's right on the money. I mean, we're just wasting time.
Yeah,
And he's got it already figured out.
Mr.
We've
Brown
done
would
this
like to
months
speak.
ago.
it might be helpful to remind the council of what hat they're wearing here. I mean, when you're zoning property, you have great discretion to decide what you want the zoning to do. When you're reviewing a plat, it is a technical, it's called a non-ministerial thing. The question is, does it meet our written requirements? Does it meet your subdivision ordinance? Does it meet all your technical requirements? That's why it's engineer-driven and fire marshal. I mean, they all look at all the codes, and if it meets all the requirements, you really don't have any lawful discretion to say no. And I run into this a lot of time, people, because no one has a crystal ball. You come up with standards, and then you see someone prepares a plat, and they meet all your standards, but you look at it and you say, I don't really like that. It's like, well, you don't really have the legal discretion to say no. I've been in a number of lawsuits, and the judges will say, you've got all the discretion in the world to come up with the standards by which you'll approve a plat. But if somebody meets those standards, you violate the law if you vote no when they meet the standard. When I'm hearing your staff and technical staff saying, this meets all of our standards. So I'm telling you, you can discuss it all you want to, but if you vote anything other than yes when they say it meets all the standards, you will be in violation of the law.
Understood. Yes, Mr. Batlow?
And we've probably only had it in place for, 3 or 4 months, our Development Review Committee, and that's basically everybody getting around the table that has a piece in something like this and discussing it. So probably 3 or 4 months to answer your previous question.
Thank you.
And Lisa, wasn't your question about drainage?
Yes.
Not,
I
okay.
hadn't asked it yet, but yes. Yeah, the question I wanted to ask is, since we had the flash flood, if Mr. Stern, yeah, if you'll step forward, Derek. Since we had the flash flood, I actually received some citizen complaints from some properties that did get flooded in and around our city, and some of them were around our other developments, not this one, of course, because it hasn't developed yet, but one that the land has been cleared, and because the land's been cleared, but the houses haven't been built, it caused a house on Honeysuckle to get flooded. So I was talking about that with Mr. Badla, and I was having concerns about this one, because when this flash flood happened that we just had, I noticed there was a lot of water in that development of the canyons that they've also cleared, and I noticed now that they finally put in the grade that shows how it's coming from Eastern Street down into that new subdivision, and it's pretty steep. And there's also a creek there on Eastern Street that always floods right there on the road every time we have flash floods. And I don't know where that dead ends into this new development. So my question was, where does that creek play in, and what's the plan for make sure that that creek doesn't flood and flood those homes after they come in and we start getting a bunch of complaints?
So they have got, their plans include a improved concrete channel,
Okay,
picking that up at Eastern and taking it all the way through the development and dumping it into the creek on the east side of the.
okay,
So, and I looked at the calculations this afternoon just to double check everything, and everything seems to be in
okay.
order.
Does it play into this phase at all, or that's gonna come when we hit to phase 2?
No, it'll run along the north edge of this phase and then and when it cuts down through the development, it'll cut through part of this phase.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, where that's gonna be. So you say it's gonna be like a concrete wall, and they're gonna actually build something and let the creek continue to flow?
It's a concrete channel.
A concrete
Just
channel?
an open channel for most of it till it gets toward the end, and then they have a big concrete.
How wide is it gonna be?
I don't remember the exact dimensions, but if you look at the plat that you were given, there's a big open space, kind of a long open strip on the north side, running along the north side of it. That's where it will be.
Can you come show me on this?
Yeah.
Because you're used to reading these and we're not.
I am. I get it.
So it'll run, let's see where we're at. It'll pick up right here and then go on through here and then turn down and go across. That's what, these are all easements for drainage.
Okay, so that's gonna be the channel where that water from that
That's where it currently kind of has a little half drive, and
because it
it all
always flows
drains
there.
right through there.
Okay,
They're gonna pick it up there, and they're gonna carry it all the way down and improve
and
channel.
is this the steep grade of the road that I'm seeing that's going down from Eastern?
Yeah, that's fairly steep coming down.
And we don't think there's gonna be any problem with water running down that road into here?
No, because most of it comes in right here and comes to that point
Okay.
where they're picking it up.
Okay. Council, do you have any other questions? So the channel is gonna be right here, so he's saying this is where that creek is, and it's gonna come down here, and come down here, and come down here, and then flow out that way. And that's where the steep road is.
I make a motion to approve the final plat for the Canyons Phase 1 as submitted by D.R. Horton, Texas Limited, be approved.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the final plat for the Canyons, Phase 1, as submitted by D.R. Horton, Texas Ltd. I guess I said the word approved already in there, didn't I? Motion by Beeson, second by Johnson. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried. All right, agenda item number 7E, review, discuss, and consider accepting the final plat for Ashton Home Place, Phase 2, as submitted by MKP Development, LLC, for the recommendation for approval by City Council.
Evening once again, Mayor and Council. MKP Development LLC purchased land along County Road 805, which they annexed and rezoned the land, and developed single-family home subdivision. Phase 1 and Phase 2 preliminary plats were approved by P&Z and City Council. Phase 2 was on hold until the easement abandonment was signed, which we did at the last council meeting, because we had a 10-inch water line that went through those backyards. We got a permit from TxDOT to move it into their right-of-way. The water line was moved. It was paid for by the developer. It didn't cost the city. Now that that easement abandonment has been signed, we're coming back to you with Phase 2. Phase 1 had already been approved, so now Phase 2 just needs your approval so they can move forward. We did the final walkthrough on the punch list. They had about 15 items when we did the pre-final walkthrough last month, and all those items have been corrected. The city, the engineers were all ready to sign off and accept that subdivision.
Any questions, council, for Mr. Martin?
I have some larger ones over here if you want to look at the
Okay.
plat.
Okay, Mayor. So just to be clear, because these things are connected with what we were just talking earlier. So the main thing is, it's not making your work harder. I'm just trying to bring it to your attention. You might be aware of it, some of it, based on the citizens who are frustrated with the previous projects that we have that we have undertaken under the city kind of here. So the thing is, if we have a process in place, and that's what I'm asking, if we can be able to follow it and be consistent,
Yes.
it makes it easy. If I vote for it, I can say, our engineer checked on it, the city staff checked on it, and the planning, everything checked out. So we don't run into 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and when you vote here, you are on the record, whether it is 100 years, they will say, who approved this thing?
Right.
So I just want to make sure if you're going through that process, it makes it easier for me to be able to tell the homeowners and say, I voted for it because everybody checked on this and they said, per our current ordinances, these things, it looks okay. It's okay.
I understand.
So don't take it like we're trying to waste your time or make it harder. It's just we are answerable to some of these homeowners because they get frustrated. They say, why is this like this?
And like I've said before, you're always welcome to come by my office, sit down, I can explain all this to you. What we do, what our process, how we do it, how we go through the ordinances, how we get with our engineers.
I'm aware of some of it, so I'm just saying that based on the process that the city manager did say that we are going on to make the same mistakes, like running into the mistakes.
We're trying not to. We try to
Yes,
learn
yes.
from past mistakes, yes.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Martin or the city engineer?
It's going to be concrete, correct? Everything's going to be concrete?
All the streets, yes.
Yes.
Curbs, gutters, sidewalk, yes.
Okay.
It's done. It's ready to go.
Yeah,
Just waiting
that's
for us to sign off, and then they can start building homes.
No, you don't have to explain, that's why I'm asking. That's all I need to know, yes or no. Thank you, appreciate it.
You ready? I move to final plat for Ashton Home Place Phase 2, submitted as MKP Development LLC, be approved.
Second. Just go ahead.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the final plat for Ashton Home Place Phase 2 as submitted by MKP Development LLC by Easley and a second by Goodwin. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Turner, for coming. Okay, council, I'm going to go ahead and jump back to the beginning to public comments. Mr. Larson, did you want to speak during this section? You didn't have an agenda item, did you? Okay. I'm going to call Mr. Larson forward.
Owen Larson, 1002 Shelley Drive, Cleburne. So I didn't really prepare any statements today.
Hey,
did
Owen,
last
is that
time.
on, buddy? You got that on?
Is it
I don't have my
Yeah,
hair.
it's on.
He's
Okay.
tall.
You can
Yeah,
lift it.
I'll bend over.
See if you
Sorry
can
about
lift it up. Yeah, there you go.
So the process that you just went through for number 7, D and E, is exactly the process I would expect that you went through. Maybe none of you were involved in this, but the exact process to create the development behind Shelley Drive. So I appreciate all the comments, because it seems to be that you're all trying to think about whether or not these developments do not have the problems that we have. I hear what Mr. Attorney said regarding you go through a process. That process might have started 2 years ago, might have started 4 months ago. I don't know. But reality is in our situation, the criteria might have been met, but it seems as though there was a lack of forethought into whether or not a creosote log wall is good enough to sustain a period of time where it keeps water back. Well, from day one, it did not. But there was zero communication that allowed us to move forward with a positive outcome of any kind. I have heard that one of our neighbors was told by a previous mayor that they were there throughout the whole process. If that was the case, I think he would have known my name, because I'm the guy throughout the whole process that had the problem, that voiced the problem, that had the concerns, that voiced the concerns with the code enforcement. I don't know what his title was. His name is Johnny Coker. I don't mind saying it. But the reality is whoever, we don't need to say names other than Johnny, because I can put my finger on that. But reality is that person was not involved. And so there has been no help been created until now. And so Mr. Johnson has been there, Mr. Gutwa has been there, Ms. Parrish has been there. Charles, Mr. Easley, I'm not sure if you've been by to see it. I think you live in the neighborhood. I could be wrong.
I have a creosote wall in my house, on my yard as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly where you live, but again, the creosote is a terrible material. It degrades over time. That's why the conversation went to whether or not there was concrete or rock or I don't know what, but in reality, over time, those things hold up. And these things, this creosote wall is not holding up. So I had a conversation with Eddie Arellano, who's 1004 Shelley Drive, earlier. He has 2 inches of mud on his concrete patio in his backyard. It's not his, it's the neighbor behind him. And so you have those things continue to happen. Now, I get it. You know what? We've had 30 inches of rain in the area, but this is not a new problem. So it's not just because we had 30 inches of rain. You can talk to people like Billy McBride, who ended up selling his home at the end of the street because he got flooded like 5 or 6 times, and every time, you know what he was told? It's a 100-year rain. We had 7 100-year rains in about a month. Pretty sure that's not reality. So I think my last point is going to be that we're not in violation. The city's in violation, or they didn't meet the certain criteria, and the criteria should have been Section 11.086 of the Texas Water Code. But essentially would stop the water coming onto anybody else's property. The water or the ground was raised 5 feet directly off my back property line. That water water does what water does. It's going to go take the path of least resistance, and it has in all of our backyards. It goes right into our backyard. Whether or not it goes through the ground and up into mine, or from the top of the ground into mine, from the roof into their backyard into mine. It doesn't go from their roof into their backyard into the front of the house, because all of that dirt from the roads were piled up on our back property line. So again, I think that as y'all discuss this, at whatever point that is, Section 11.086 of the Texas Water Code should be what you discuss.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I'm not an attorney, but please.
Repeat that one more time. 11,
11.086. I'll make sure, yes, 11.086.
do you know when your house was built?
1996, I built it.
Okay.
But the houses behind me were built, I believe, in 2008 or 2009. So prior to 2008 or 2009, I did not have any of these issues. And so I'll tell you what.
So you're on the first street, and these houses are the second street, because there's
It's the
three.
second street. So it's Shelley, which is the older development,
Mhm.
and Jenny, am I right about that? Jenny is the one directly behind it. So I literally took a letter to every neighbor behind us
Right.
yesterday and invited them tonight. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it, or at least it seems that way. Hopefully they are here, and I just don't know it. But I've met with 4 of them, which I think is about half of them. And they, my goal is not to have bad relationships with neighbors. But in reality is at this point, I have no other choice. If they're not going to be complacent, or that's a terrible word. If they're not going to be willing to work with us, I'm not sure I have any reason to just bow down. So I'm not sure what else to say other than thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. We appreciate it, and we're going to continue to work on your problem. I think we can find a solution.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak during public comments that did not give me a yellow card? Okay, the city secretary has a letter to read at this time that was presented to her, so I'm going to have her go ahead and do that then. And I think, council, you all have this letter in front of you in your packets. It was on the desk when we showed up.
Dear Mayor, members of City Council, City Manager, and the EDC Type B Board, after careful consideration, I regret to inform you that I am rescinding my application to the Economic Development Corporation EDC Type B Board. The EDC Type B Board voted unanimously to recommend my appointment because of the strong financial background, experience, energy, and passion that I offered. Therefore, I was stunned when, at the May 2nd, 2024 meeting, the council did not readily accept the board's recommendation and appoint me to the board. The reasons given stemmed from statements I made during public comments from a previous meeting that a select number of council members were acting disrespectfully toward the mayor. Following my statements at the same meeting, Ray Johnson, a council member, acted disrespectfully toward me by yelling at me from his seat at the dais while council was at recess. As a result, I filed a complaint as per my right. When that complaint came before council, Councilmember Johnson doubled down on his argument and was again disrespectful and unprofessional. Since the council took no action and had just passed a code of conduct, I filed a second complaint under the new code to get a resolution. I felt then and still feel that the disrespect and unprofessional conduct toward the mayor is uncalled for and detrimental to the city. Never have I encountered such barbaric behavior of members serving in an elected position. Apparently, when you voice support for the mayor, you are not accepted by this council and deemed fit to serve on any board. It's unfortunate that the council has chosen to take this political stance against my appointment to the Type B board. This behavior is setting a bad precedence for Keene, hurting the morale of the city and impeding progress. I would like to thank the members of the Type B EDC board for their faith in me and wish them the best of luck in finding another qualified candidate. Should you have any questions or require any further clarification, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Sincerely, Bob Chapman.
Can I say something on that deal, Mayor?
This is just a public comment that she's just
Okay.
reading.
All right.
Do we have a contact info on him? He didn't leave the contact info here.
I'm sorry?
There's no contact info on the letter. I don't have
On
a
the
phone
letter?
number or an email address for him. Can I get that, please?
Yes, this did arrive via email.
I know, but on here, he didn't put anything, so I don't have any way to contact him. I don't have a phone number
Oh,
or an email
we
address.
can get that, we can get that for you.
Can you please?
She'll have a board application on file with his contact information.
Thank you.
Let's go and have something.
Okay, that's all I have for public, I'm sorry?
Ms. Gillen.
Ms. Gillen, would you like to speak now? Council, do you have any objection to Ms. Gillen speaking without a yellow card?
Go for it.
Go ahead. Step forward, please.
I'm just wondering, Samantha Gillen, 218 West 4th Street, Keene, Texas, Mayor, Board, Council. Wondering why we keep hearing the same thing from Mr. Chapman. I don't understand why we keep bringing this up at every council meeting that we have. You know, if he did withdrew, or if he doesn't want to be on B board anymore, or he doesn't like the way the council works, or what people say from the audience, that's part of the job. As you well know, politics is politics. So I just don't know why we keep bringing it up so many times in our council meetings. The same person, the same filing, the same everything. Is there not something that can be done about that? A personal meeting with people or something?
This is during public comments, so pretty much anybody can
Well, I
come
know.
forward and give their 3 minutes and speak on any topic that they want to.
Sure. I just thought that we had stopped it where that they couldn't just read someone's.
No, as long as they go through the proper conduct, procedure, and they did. He
Okay.
apparently emailed it to her and asked her to read it.
So they can come in 2 or 3 times and talk, and then they can send letters in, and they'll be read
Mhm.
each time.
We have an allowance for that under our Rules of Order and Procedure, I believe, that allows for letters to be sent in and read during council meetings, yes.
Okay, is that only certain people that can do that?
No, anybody can do
Anybody
it.
write a letter?
Anybody that doesn't want to be, isn't able to attend a meeting can send in something in written form and have it read by the secretary.
Okay, so I guess he was sick or something?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay, well, I just was wondering because it doesn't seem right.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gillen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 4, reports, review and discuss the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just have a couple things to report tonight. Just wanted to follow up with you on the water CCN area, private water company up here. We were talking a few council meetings ago about trying to get hydrants installed. I have tried to contact them multiple times as the city, and they won't even respond to me. So I cannot get them to reply in any way. So as was told to us, they do seem pretty unresponsive. So that's where we're at on that. Any questions?
Mr. Brown, do you have any suggestions now for what to do if he can't contact the water company, the citizens can't contact the water company to get fire hydrants in their development, to get them to upgrade their lines? We were talking about going to the district rep or somebody higher up. Can you write a letter? Is there anything you can do?
Well, I guess the question is, do we have a good mailing or email address for them, or?
Yeah, I've got it off of their website. I sent it to a few different individuals, but yeah, no response.
I mean, the reality is if they just want to ignore us, there's probably not a lot we can do. We don't have jurisdiction over it, and you can write them and call them and email them and fax them, and if they just don't respond, then all you can do is try to ask. I mean, I don't, potentially, there might be the ability to, like I said, I think last time, I mean, if there's whoever the state rep is in that area might have some ability to go down and talk to the PUC in Austin and say, hey, you got a water supply company here that's not responding to us at all, that, and then they might have the ability to, I mean, the group that does regulate them, they might be able to get their attention. Because we're just another entity that's asking for a conversation, but if they choose not to engage us, there's not what we can do. But the entities that actually regulate them would have some ability to force them to respond to us.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay, I have not heard it directly from them. I tried to reach out to them today, but I heard indirectly TxDOT plans on an FM 2280 project starting as early as June.
Okay,
So I'm trying to get more details on that from them. That will
and
be
this is the repaving of the road?
from 67 all the way to 35. So,
And all the way, all the way through Keene then?
Yeah, so
Wow.
I'm trying to get some more details on that, but I've heard as
Okay.
early as June. So I was
And-
hoping they'd call me back before council so I could have some better details, but that's what I'm hearing. So I'll try to keep you updated on that. I'll send council an email as soon as I hear from them. And
So we're not going to be able to get to City Hall for our meetings, right? So,
I'll put something on social media as well for the citizens as soon as I find out, because that
okay,
it significantly increase
And how long is it supposed to take? We have no idea.
It doesn't matter how long it's gonna take them, because it's gonna take them a little bit at a time. They're not gonna do everything at once. They'll do one side first, and then they'll turn back and do the other side.
The gentleman that's speaking for the Keene Chamber next week, is that someone who can,
That's the
Yeah,
person I've.
Daniel Poole,
well, there you go.
he's gonna be in.
Yeah, and we have a back door to the city hall too, so we got that.
Do you have anything else in your report?
Sorry, that's it. Thank you.
Is that it? Any questions for Mr. Batla? All right, thank you, Mr. Batla. Agenda item number 4B, review and discuss the financial report for April 2024. Mr. Williams, how are you tonight?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Good to see you. One moment. Tonight, we have the April report, which is the 7th month, as you know. Starting with the revenues. Good news with the property taxes, we have reached our target. We are over that 100%, as you can see, for the property taxes or the revenue we have collected. Another point is the court fees has increased in such a way that it's well over our target. As you recall, last year and year before last, we was lacking in that. So we are doing a great job with those two items in itself. In comparison to April of last year, we're at 6.5% more in percentage collected in revenue. That leads to almost close to 750,000 more in the revenue portion of that. Any questions? On the expenditure side, we're doing very good on that. It has increased, of course. A lot of things has been going on this year in 2024. A lot of expenditures, and thanks to the mayor and council, the increase in salaries to retain our employees here. Other things to make note of is also there have been a high level of maintenance and repairs on a lot of vehicles that are old and antiquated almost. I hate to say it that way, but it's been in the shops more than it should be. Any questions? Moving on, sales tax. We are doing pretty good on that, although we are 7 percentage points on that. Mainly is that just the economy. We have no control over that, but we are close to the target. Property tax, as mentioned before, a lot better than previous of April of last year. As you can see, from 63,000 collected, we only collected 10,000 last year. Water and sewer, very quickly. We have reached the target on the revenue side on that. We're doing quite good. I just said quite because there are still some fees that we need to really kind of look at during the budget time this year to kind of go over and make some kind of assessment. The water revenues, as I indicated before, we right at target on both and expenses as well. Sewer, very similar to last year. We're a lot lower this year in the percentage according to budget, but we spent a lot more this year due to a lot of concerns and issues thereof. The last page, better can see this, but in your packet, you can see that we have took care of a lot of things. There have been a lot of expenditures One thing to note is the CDBG grant is in force and running really well. One thing I do want to note, I noted to the principals of the CDBG that they was a little late in sending us the disbursement. In the contract, they indicate that they're supposed to have that prior to that, but I want to let you know that we let them know that they was outside the bounds of the contract agreement with that. So 6 months from now, if they come back to us and saying the city did not comply, it's noted. So that's the end of my April report. If there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Williams?
Down, you have a 124 in the yellow at the very bottom, purchase the new fire truck and brush truck.
Yeah.
Have we paid in full for both of them?
Yes, at this time, but I always note things, kind of keep you, let you know when we got those things and keep track of it. And yes, next month, I will have a note down there saying that those have been purchased and taken care of. Yes.
But we still don't know when we're getting the brush truck?
Yeah,
Don't know. I'll have to get with the fire chief on that.
Yes.
It was supposed to take, like, I heard 2 years, so I don't know when we started the process, but yeah, I think they said it would take at least 2 years before we get the brush truck.
Yeah, the last one I ordered. was
Yeah.
so.
So maybe next year if we're lucky.
Get things before I paid in full, and
Yeah.
yes.
paid in full. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councilman. I totally agree with that. I'm a person like to have the service and work done prior to any kind of payment. But
It's not the way
Yes,
this works, yeah. Not the
Yes,
way this one works, yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, we appreciate it.
And no, thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right, agenda item number 5, public hearing items. Hold a public hearing to consider the city's land use assumptions and capital improvements plan under which water and wastewater impact fees may be imposed. I don't think we have anything on our packet on this. Were you going to speak to that, Mr. Batla?
Sure, this is
Just
just part
briefly,
of
and then I'll open
the,
up the hearing.
Yeah, this is just part of the marathon steps to impose impact fees. We have jumped through all the hurdles so far as getting the committee together, getting our land use assumptions, capital improvement plans, meeting on that. And the next step is a public hearing, and then agenda items 7A and B cover the further steps into that. Any questions? I'm happy
Any questions for Mr. Batla?
to defer
Counsel?
to the attorney.
Yeah, like Mr. Battle said, basically, Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code on impact fees sets forth the process, and you appointed your capital impact fee advisory committee, and then in conjunction with the consultant, there's a land use plan, land use assumptions, and what that does is basically kind of takes a picture of where Keene is now, where Keene will be, we think, 10 years from now. And that kind of gives you a thought on how you're going to develop. That's the land use assumptions. Then the capital improvements plan is the plan that says if we develop over the next 10 years like this is what we're going to need in terms of new water capacity or sewer capacity. And are we going to need another water tower or another lift station? It basically determines the needs, and then through those needs, as we actually when you actually approve the impact fees is just a mathematical calculation of figuring out, here's all the things we're going to need to build over the next 10 years. How do we apportion it amongst all new development that's coming in, since they're necessitating the need for these new things? But at this step, all you're really doing is typically opening it up to the public, to see if there's anyone with the public that has any comments on the land use assumption or the capital improvements plan. And then once that's done, you just check that off, and that's just one more thing on the step list that you have to do.
So unfortunately, this will not affect our new developments that have already been approved. And that's a lot of rooftops, but future developments, this will be part of
All right, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:54 PM. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak to this, that has any questions for us in regarding our city lands use assumptions or capital improvement plan or impact fees? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:55 PM. Moving on to agenda item number 6, consent agenda. All items listed below have been previously discussed, require no deliberation or routine by the city council, and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of the items. The items that were under consideration tonight is A, consider approval of the memorandum of understanding between the City of Keene Police Department and Joshua Independent School District Police Department. And B, consider approval of City Council regular meeting minutes dated May 2nd, 2024. Council, you can either make a motion, or if you'd like to remove any of these items for further discussion, please let me know.
What is, maybe I don't know. I'm not understanding A on this.
You don't understand what? The consent agenda or one of these items?
The council approve, not council, but, consider approve at, something for the police department,
Okay.
Joshua Police Department.
We can remove that for a brief discussion then, if you want to ask a question about it.
Okay.
All right, council, let's remove 6A. So we're going to just be approving at this time 6B, the city council minutes from May 2nd.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I move the consent agenda B to be approved as presented.
Second.
we have a motion to approve the consent agenda for item number B as approved, be approved as presented by Gutwa and seconded by Easley. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried. Now we're going to open up for discussion item 6A. Consider approval of the memorandum of understanding between the City of Keene Police Department and Joshua Independent School District Police Department. I think this is the first time Mr. Johnson has seen this, so if you want to give him a brief explanation.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is basically a renewal of a pre-existing agreement, a mutual aid agreement. So we will go help them in their time of need, and they'll come help us in their time. Lieutenant, any other thing you'd like to add to that? That's kind of the brief explanation.
That was a very good explanation.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. Basically, it is that, but it's also required every 3 years. So, and that's because players change. You know, you have different superintendents, different chiefs of police, different administrations. And also, the schools themselves change, and they have different policies and stuff as crime prevention starts to go forward. So all we're doing is making sure everybody knows what they're supposed to do. So as far as our department, when we interact with them, it basically outlines the jurisdiction and who's responsible for what. And that way there's no confusion.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And it looks like our current agreement has already expired. Looks like we might be a little bit late renewing this one, so we do need to go ahead and take care of it. Do I have a motion, council, to pass 6A?
I'll make a motion to the consent agenda item 6A.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Keene Police Department and Joshua Independent School District Police Department by Beeson and a second by Easley. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried. All right, agenda item number 7A, review, discuss, and consider resolution number 2024-445, approving the land use assumptions and capital improvement plan for the city's water and wastewater impact fee service area and declaring an effective date.
Mayor and council, this is the next step and the required steps to consider the adoption of impact fees. You've had your public hearing on the land use assumptions and the capital improvements plan. Now, through this resolution, you would be formally adopting those, and those will then be utilized as the basis for which impact fees will be calculated, and you can consider at a future meeting, which will be set after public hearings on the next agenda item.
Okay.
This is just the next thing in the steps that are required.
I move that resolution number 2024445, approving the land use assumptions and capital improvements plan for the city's water and wastewater impact fee service area and declaring an effective date to be approved.
Second.
Who seconded it, I'm sorry?
Me.
Johnson, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a motion on the floor to approve resolution number 2024-445, approving the land use assumptions and capital improvements plan for the city's water and wastewater impact fee service area and declaring an effective date by Easley and a second by Johnson. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. Thank you, council. Agenda item number 7B, review, discuss, and consider resolution number 2024-446, setting a public hearing to consider the adoption of water and wastewater impact fees for the city's water and wastewater impact fee service area.
This is the next step. Now that you have adopted the land use assumption, the capital improvements plan, this is a resolution that's required by state law to set a public hearing. It's to be set on July 18, which you may be thinking, why so far out? There's a 30-day requirement from the time you set the public hearing to the time that you actually have it. So, and at that hearing on the 18th would be your first opportunity to consider the impact fees that would be recommended by your consultants.
Okay, council?
Make a motion, move that resolution 2024-446, setting public hearing consideration and adoption of the water and wastewater impact fees for the city's water and wastewater impact fee service area be approved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve resolution number 2024-446, setting a public hearing to consider the adoption of water and wastewater impact fees for the city's water and wastewater impact fee service by Easley and a second by Gutwa. Any further discussion on the motion? All in? No, it's already in the resolution. I was going to announce it when we got done, though. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. So the date for this public hearing is going to be July 18, 2024 at 6 p.m. And that's when we are going to be approving the adoption of the impact fees. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7C. Review, discuss, and consider ordinance number 2024-670 to provide for an exemption from property taxation for qualifying child care facilities in accordance with section 11.36 of the Texas Tax Code.
Thank you, Council. We have been asked by the state legislature, which passed Senate Bill 1145, to consider a exemption for child care facilities within the municipality or in the city limits. To qualify for the exemption, they would need to be a licensed child care facility. They would need to be a Texas Workforce Commission Texas Rising Star Program participant and have at least 20% of the children enrolled in the Texas Workforce Commission's Child Care Services Program. Home-based child care facilities would not qualify if they have the homestead exemption. The facility must be used for child care primarily. You can set the percentage, if you so wish, of the exemption. It must be between 50% to 100%, or you can elect to not offer an exemption. Completely up to you. The ordinance as written by Mr. Chesser leaves a blank for that amount if you wish to offer the exemption. If not, we just don't pass the ordinance.
And this was recommended by the attorney to put on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Council, are you understanding this? Do you have any questions? Mr. Brown can probably answer them. He's done a little bit
No,
of research on this.
My only question was, do we have to set this, or is there an option not to do anything?
I think she said there was an option not to do
Yeah.
anything.
Okay, I thought
like-
so, but I
Or you can set it, yeah.
wasn't sure.
Right, just, it's a local exemption, you can choose to do it or not, and of course, now, whether somebody qualifies for it, the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County, it decides that. You make application just like you would for, over 65, or disability, or veterans, or homestead, so we wouldn't have any say as to whether a particular property actually meets the qualifications or not. We just adopt the exemption with the qualifications that state law has dictated, if we choose to do that.
Mayor?
Man.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do
Mr.
we know if we have any qualifying facilities in Keene?
I think the secretary did some research. I don't know if any of them qualify at this time, but that doesn't mean that they won't come into our city in the future and then qualify. It's kind of like a tax freeze, or like we did for, like he's saying, for over 65 or something. So something that the state recently adopted, they're trying to encourage it. There is a shortage of child care facilities in the state, and they're trying to encourage this growth. And they also are encouraging this Texas Rising Star program.
Second follow-up question, what is the average or standard percentage that other cities are putting in there?
It appears that large cities, like say Lubbock size, Dallas, are doing 100%. There are a few smaller cities, though, that have elected not to give an exemption.
Zero.
Zero.
Okay.
In the city of Keene, from my just quick research, there's only 3 child care facilities, one of them being the school. The other 2 are home-based. Only one of those is part of that Texas Rising Star program, but whether they actually would qualify or not, I'm not 100% certain, but right now, we only have 3 child care facilities in the city.
So by adopting it, it's not going to have like a large impact on our tax base, if that's what you're thinking,
That's
like we're
kinda
going to
what I'm
lose a
looking
lot
at,
of
yeah.
revenue. It's not, and we're probably not going to ever have a ton of them in our city being small, but it's just another benefit to draw people maybe into our city that might want to start one.
I think you stated that there was one, so I pulled them up on the internet, and it showed one down off of Fairview and Third. I drove that street, and I saw nothing down there at all.
Mary's, are you talking about Mary's Home Daycare?
I don't-
There is a child care home listed on Third Street, East Third Street,
But
It's
if they
run
have
by a
a
lady named Mary
homestead, it doesn't
Hernandez.
qualify.
and it's a home-based child care. She's been there for, I want to say about 24 years. She's
I
been-
know there used to be one out on Old Betsy, right
Yeah.
before you got to
Yeah, that one's
67.
closed.
But anyway,
And I don't know if the attorney can answer this. Maybe it's something that can be revisited on down the line as Keene grows. I'd
Yeah.
leave that up to.
It could be as we get more people in here.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I think with this one, we have, Keene is blessed to have a lot of schools around. And when you talk about daycare, we say childcare facility, there are some criterias. Like the childcare facilities we have in Keene right now, most of them might not be able to qualify because of the home exemption. So we are not talking about the ones we have now. We are talking about if somebody wants to come here and say, let's say there's a building, maybe Suahu or somewhere, and they want to run a big childcare facility. It will make it accessible for all these homes we are bringing in. They will be willing to risk to invest, but out of that kind of business back and forth, employees working there, the business tend to benefit from that, and then the city gets the taxes from their sales tax. So there are benefits to do it, and there's a reason why major big cities give 100%, because they know they'll get their money back anyway.
how does the city get sales tax from a daycare?
The employees that work there might go and buy something from Subway, or they might go there, they might go to Mr. John's Pizza, and you have some of those kids, they might want to go and maybe go for checkups in Keene, because we have all this franchise healthcare, whatever that's going on in Keene. And some of these parents who are picking up these kids or family members, you spend money where you spend most of your time. So the businesses around you,
Sales tax.
when they buy something, the city gets taxed from that. So you are creating traffic to that area where family members have to visit and or pick up their kids. And so there's benefit that the city gets from that to take care of all these rooftops that are coming in or parents that are bringing all the kids.
It makes us appear business and family friendly, which is kind of the community that we're in. We're a community that was grounded on the school system, and that's how we were founded. So by adopting this, I think it's a good thing, that it might incentivize somebody to come in and start a commercial child care center. And if they get a tax break from it, just like you can get a tax break, like you say, when you turn 65 or you're disabled or something, it's a benefit to that person, and it can be a good thing for our community.
I mean, the public policy behind the bill, and I read it, is to basically, to qualify, you have to have a certain percentage of the kids there that are getting subsidized child care. It's designed to help disadvantaged families because there's a lot of folks just can't afford child care. So in order to encourage more child care that's subsidized, to allow more children to have access to the child care, that's why they passed this law, to allow each community to decide whether that's, you know, something that's where it is in their pecking order of priorities, and if they want to approve it, and then decide whether they want to exempt it, 50%, 100%, or somewhere in between.
I'm gonna go ahead and deny it myself. I mean, it's, don't make sense to me, really. I mean, I've been here 20-something years and ain't sent me in here yet. We can't compare with big cities, so I'm gonna go ahead and deny this.
Ms. Bells, did you want to speak? Ms. Bells would like to speak for a minute.
I have a question, Mayor, Council. Debbie Bells, 2900 County Road 805. My question is, does this daycare have to be certified daycare or just an individual that opens it up to their home? And another question is it for the entire property or just for the property, the portion that they're doing the daycare in? Like they have their daycare in their bedroom, or they've closed their closet, not their bedroom, their living room, or they've closed their closet, their garage in. Would it just be for that particular portion divided out for taxes?
All right, so Ms. Bells, to answer your question about this, yes, you would have to be a licensed daycare. So you would have to be a licensed child care facility with the state of Texas. And under the guidelines, you would also have to be certified as Texas Rising Star, which is a new mandate for all child care daycare centers in the state of Texas. That was passed at the last session as well. So, and then they have to meet the criteria also of having 20% of their child population enrollment in that daycare center be approved for services through child care subsidy, essentially through the Texas workforce.
Yeah,
So they have to meet several different criteria before they can get it.
And to answer your question on the, you know, can they use part of a house? It says the bill establishes the property is not ineligible for the exemption of if a portion of the property is used for other functions other than described by the bill, but it doesn't apply to the value of the portion. So you could have, in theory, you could have a home, and if the zoning allowed it, and for home occupation, you could have part of that home used for this daycare facility. That part would get the exemption, the other wouldn't. But that's something that the appraisal district has to,
It's their
they'd
determination.
have to go through all that and figure out percentages and how that
Okay.
works.
There,
Okay.
there is another
Thank you.
note on here that the bill would prohibit the property from receiving the exemption if it's a homesteaded.
Oh, okay,
So if it has to be a business,
okay.
Yeah.
or if someone wants to live in a non-homesteaded place. The homestead
Counsel?
exemption's
Thank
pretty
you.
big.
Just to answer everyone's question that I'm sure is braying on your mind, no, I would not qualify for this exemption. So if council passed this, it will not benefit me in any way with my licensed childcare home. I do have a homestead on my property, and I'm a small licensed facility. I am licensed under the Texas Rising Star program, so I am one of the ones that Ms. Russell is speaking about in her document here without listing my business's name.
Well, I was trying to point that out without
Yeah,
you saying that.
and I do have 20% of my children on the Texas Rising Star on this child care subsidy program. program currently,
But you don't want to lose your
but I will
homestead.
not qualify because I have a homestead.
Yeah.
So this is going to benefit future daycares, not me, if that makes you feel better. And it is a good thing for our city to do because it will encourage the growth of childcare centers and other people to do care for children that want to get this benefit to help them, because it's very expensive to operate a licensed childcare facility, as I've been operating one in Keene for 22 years. And I do understand the cost of childcare that parents have to pay, and many of them struggle, and a lot of them do need to be on a program for subsidy. And so if a childcare center wants to come into our community and build one, you know, I am excited for that. I'm actually happy for that, and I think that there is going to be a need in the future for it with all the developments that we do have coming in, because all those people are going to have spouses, they're going to bring in children. So this is just a perk that we can say, we're going to do this, we're going to be business friendly, and it's going to help people. So I think we should do it just like we did the tax freeze, just like we pass any other exemptions. The state has dictated that this is something they want to happen, and they want cities to adopt this. There is a shortage of daycare facilities in the state. A lot of them closed during COVID. They did not reopen. I barely survived myself. It was a very bad time for us. So I think this is something that you should consider carefully and pass at least some type of exemption, at least give them 50%. If you don't want to do the 100%, 50% is what the state has mandated as the minimum that they want you to do. So I would say do 50%.
So we have a motion on the floor. Did
I
it die?
can't make the
No,
motion,
no,
but,
no, we have one. Did it die for a second?
yeah, do we have a motion? You
No,
want me to ask
do.
for it?
We do.
Oh, it was a suggestion Councilman Ray Johnson was making. So with that explanation, does it help?
The reason I said it is because, and it ain't got nothing to do with the mayor, what she's got. It ain't have one thing to do with her. So I just don't believe it's necessary right now.
We're trying to encourage business in our community, Mr. Johnson. That's why I'm suggesting that this should be considered by this council. It's just like any other exemption that we give to any of our developers that come in. We give them discounts on sewer taps and water taps. We do that to incentivize them, to get them to come in and develop in our town versus going to Cleburne or Alvarado. And it's why we've gotten so much, because we haven't had impact fees. Some of that will impact us in the future, where people won't come in here if our fees are too high. But we're trying to give a little bit of a tax break to a small business. Is not going to impact our tax base at all, because if best, we're probably going to get one, maybe, that ever gets on this program, or two at the very most, and we're probably talking years in the future. But it's something that if they found out that we had it, they might say, oh, I'm going to put my daycare in Keene, and I'm not going to go to Cleburne, I'm not going to go to Joshua, I'll put it here, and I'll help this community. And that'd be a good thing for us.
I don't see it happening.
So did you make a motion, Ray, or?
Yeah, I denied it.
Okay, so do we have a second on that? I'm taking your place. Let's get a second going.
I'm sorry, what motion did he make?
He made a motion to deny.
To deny it?
So now you-
Okay.
But we got to get a
Is there-
second.
Is there a second for it?
All right, is there a second to deny this resolution or this ordinance? Okay, motion fails for lack of a second.
I move for ordinance number 2024670 to provide 50% exemption from property taxation for qualifying childcare facilities in accordance with section 11.36 of the Texas Tax Code be approved.
All right, do we have a second? To approve?
To approve at 50%.
To approve ordinance number 2024-670 for a 50% exemption from property taxation for qualifying childcare facilities in accordance with section 11.36 of the Texas Tax Code. I have a motion on the floor to approve it. Do I have a second? Is this a difficult decision to a second?
Okay, Mayor. Okay, Mayor. Just a second before you table it, or you're planning to table it.
Why is he telling her what to do?
You know, I'm supporting this, and let the citizens speak, and then I'll speak what I wanted to say. Mayor?
Can we go
Yes,
ahead
sir.
and stop while I have a motion on the floor and not a second?
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you want to let someone speak.
All right, go ahead.
That's fine.
Stephanie Andrew, 1009 Christine, does a decision have to be made tonight in regards to this, or can it happen later when our population grows?
It does not have to be made tonight. It would, if it was passed tonight, it wouldn't be effective till the next tax year. I mean, you obviously have to put it in place early enough in a year so that the exemption could be in place for the next tax year, which would be on January 1st. But you could do this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, assuming that the law is still on the books.
Okay, and then, because I don't know all about the taxes and everything, since we need tax dollars, does giving this help to them, is it going to hurt us in some area when we need tax dollars so much to pay for all of this expensive equipment that we've bought and trying to keep up with everyone's pay? And how does that affect us money-wise for our city if we do help this one category of business with this percentage?
As I just mentioned, we don't have any qualifying childcare facilities in the city right now that meet the requirements
I understand.
for that. So we're talking maybe one might ever come in here in the future and meet the qualifications, so it's not going to have any impact. We're talking one business.
So then we don't need to really pass it then? Is that, I mean, for right now, since we're still kind of small?
Mayor?
I mean,
Go ahead.
does Cleburne have qualifying childcare?
Yeah, a qualified childcare would be more than likely going to be a commercial building. It's not going to meet homestead, so it's not going to get a homestead exemption. My guess is it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $7,000 in tax savings, if you want a number on a building, based upon my house being what it is. But about a $3,000 to $7,000 tax savings.
It's probably a good estimate.
You know,
For the year.
For the year. So,
Okay.
you know, but what that might bring us is more than that. And that's why I said 50%. We're only going to cut them half. We're giving them half slack, not full. But
Well,
with our indecision, I think maybe we should table it until we get the other two members of the council here, bring it back in a month, let the citizens talk about it. Looks like my motion failed for the lack of a second.
Okay, Mayor.
Go ahead.
So this one is one of those things, yeah, I'm in support of this, and don't get me wrong. The problem I have is 50%, which is reasonable, it's a safe zone. But put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's taking risk, starting a small business. You know, nowadays interest rate, the banks don't want to give too much loan. And somebody's taking a risk because of the rooftops. And they say, let me just put a daycare in Keene somewhere, maybe down along All of Betsy. You have all these homes that we have in Keene that might come online by that time, by next year. And put yourself in the shoes of a homeowner who has kids, and you know, according to the statistics in Keene, we have a lot of, according to the parents who normally get the meal, who are on meal program, there are a lot of people who are under, you know, the poverty line, you know, that's what we call it. Put yourself in the shoes of those parents. Maybe, probably, if Cleburne is offering this option, somebody bets on that and opens a big daycare, maybe in Cleburne or Alfredo or Joshua. Put yourself in that kind of a situation where a parent has to drive 20, 30 miles from the city center, everyday gas, wear and tear on the vehicle, and then they have to stop by, maybe get some snack or whatever, maybe, you know, the kids that kids need.
Like you said, we're sitting here wasting time, and to me, why don't we
It's
just go
it's not.
Mr. Johnson, please do not interrupt Mr. Goodwill.
Okay. It's not a waste of time. Think like the person who wants to take the risk, the business owner and the homeowner, or the parents of these kids who are struggling, trying to drive from Keene, going to maybe Pallison. And if you are, let's say Mr. maybe X wants to open a daycare, Cleburne does offer this exemption. Keene does not. Where do you think you'll take your business? Down the street. So there are a lot of benefits, and you're not going to have maybe like 20 daycares in Keene, which will, you know, take the money from the city coffers. But you might have one or two that is going to serve this population that you have. If you want to sell these homes to keep these parents here, to keep their cost of, living low, make it easier for somebody to take a bet on Keene and start a business that will be able to help the parents so that they don't need to drive outside Keene city limits, dealing with the traffic and all that comes with, rush hours. So that's my take. I think it's just about helping those homeowners that are going to buy homes in Keene and who might qualify for these services. Thank you.
gotta qualify for all this too. You just can't open a daycare here and just thinking you could come here and open one. It's impossible. You gotta have it approved. Lisa could tell you all that. She owns a business. If
Yeah,
you're not qualified, how are you gonna open daycare? You can't. So, it's like he said, it could be held for another year. Whenever it start happening, then we could do, or whoever on council could do that. That's the way I look at it.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table this for 1 month and bring it back when we have the other 2 members. Do we have a second?
And do we have a second to table ordinance number 2024-670 to provide for an exemption for property taxation for qualifying childcare facilities in accordance with section 11.36 of the Texas Tax Code?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a table on the floor by Easley and a second by Beeson. Any further discussion on this motion?
Ms. Gillen got something to say, Lisa.
Ms. Gillen, would you like to step forward? Council, do you have any objection to Ms. Gillen speaking?
Samantha Gillen, 218 West 4th Street, Keene, Texas. I would just like to say, I wish we would give more, we need a daycare, and eventually with all the new people that's coming in and everything, but there's a lot of businesses that we need. We didn't need 3 vape shops. We didn't need 3 tattoo shops. We didn't need those kind of places. We need to get a lot of other businesses in here. And being a commercial real estate broker, I have been trying to get businesses into Keene, and for some reason, that was before Mr. Betla got here, they were turned down, they weren't helped, they weren't offered incentives, they weren't done anything. I mean, there were a couple of restaurants, I think, that got incentives, and then they went bankrupt and went out. So we didn't do the right thing there, but we do need to have some kind of a program to help new businesses. But I think that we need to really think them through first before we start allowing 3 of the same thing to come into a small city like this, and try to get different variety of businesses that our citizens need. Just an opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Gillen. All right, we have a motion to table on the floor by Easley and a second by Beeson. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion is carried. We'll table this and bring it back to the next meeting. Okay. I guess we're ready for executive session. All right. Agenda item number 8, executive session. Pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, the City Council may convene into executive session at any time during the meeting that a need arises for the City Council to seek advice from the City Attorney as to any posted item, and by the following authority. A, 551.071, consultation with the City Attorney for advice about pending or contemplated litigation, Shelley Drive water runoff issue. B, 551.074, personnel matters, receive a report and hold a discussion regarding city manager training courses as part of employment contract and upcoming annual performance review. And C, 551.074, personnel matters, receive a report and hold a discussion regarding administrative complaint number 2024-0003 against Mayor Parrish. It is 7:28 p.m., and I'm going to go ahead and convene us into executive session.
First round. Sugar Ray Leonard, keep it ringing.
All right, council is going to reconvene into open session at 8:56 PM. There's going to be no action taken from the executive session. We have one statement, though, that Mr. Batla is going to read.
Okay, this is a read. This is in regarding to the complaint. The city received a citizen complaint against Mayor Lisa Parrish on or about April 25, 2024. I have been authorized to read a quote from the city attorney that looked into this complaint. Quote, "It is my finding that the mayor did not violate section 4.3 or section 7.2 of the city council's rules of order and procedure." End quote. Council concurs with the city attorney's findings and conclusions, and no action was taken.
Thank you, Mr. Batla. All right, moving on to agenda item number 10, request for future items on the agenda. Council, do you have anything?
Can we put something on there after we talk to him about some?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
We can do that.
that's fine, thank you.
Anything else? All right, it's 8:58 PM. Meeting is adjourned.